Hey, welcome back to the last half of the Unity for Humanities Summit. This afternoon, we have the legendary Cousteau family talking about conservation work in XR, and Salesforce and Time Magazine will be here to talk about their approaches to reforestation through technology. Lots to look forward to. But now, it's my pleasure to introduce our next pillar talk, Black Realities, Confronting Anti-Blackness with Immersive Storytelling.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Sharifa Joka, and I and my colleague, SB, are the co-chairs of the Black Reality Grant, which is a monthly program that is offered by the Kaleidoscope Fund. And the Black Realities Grant is designed to support the development of Black content. And essentially, there are just two rules. One, you need to self-identify as a Black creative. And two, you need to have a project that's going to center Black stories and Black characters. And that project can be any genre. It could be any screen-based creative pursuit. And that includes games, that includes films, that includes anything that would engage a screen, whether it's VR, whether it's AR, and we hope that you think about possibly pursuing that opportunity to get some projects developed. So with that said, I wanted to share that we steward this program along with a board of directors who are not fully with us, but they are here with us in spirit. And it's their participation and contribution that allows this grant to move forward. So I just want to speak their names into the space. Joel, who's actually on our panel, Joel Benson, thank you for your service. Jake Talley, Julia Kunquo, Sophanie Joseph, Kaylin Hunt, Lauren Hammond, Brian Afundi, Alton Glass, and Viola Davis. So thank you all. And with that said, I want to introduce this illustrious panel. We're going to introduce ourselves by sharing our names, our pronouns, and what city we're calling in from. So I'm she, her, hers, and I'm calling in from Los Angeles, and I'm going to throw it to my co-chair, SB.
Hello, everybody. My name is SB, she, her, hers, and I'm calling in from Brooklyn, New York. I'd like to throw it over to Anatola.
Thank you, SB. My name is Anatola Araba. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm also calling in from New York City.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Joel Kachi Benson, Mahi. I'm calling in from Warri, Delta State, Nigeria.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Sharifa Ali. I'm also a Sharifa. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am calling in from Harlem, New York City.
And my name is Stephen Christian. I am he, him, his, and I am calling in from Portland, Oregon.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us. So we're going to start off this conversation with Anatola. Anatola, you're currently in film school at NYU. What was the spark that led you to immersive storytelling? Was it part of the standard instruction you were getting at NYU? What was the immediate reward that sustained your interest, and what was the challenge?
Yes, that is a great question. As a senior now at NYU, I became obsessed with immersive storytelling and interactive media a couple of years ago. And no, it's not a part of the normal department curriculum in my school, so I really got more knowledge and interest about it through connecting with people from other departments, also connecting with people who are just outside of the university in general, who are doing interesting things in the field. And I'm interested in emerging interactive media because it allows you to break free from traditional storytelling structures. And I believe it's a place that will grow so much in the future and have it be a larger part of the way that we connect and tell stories and share interesting experiences.
Thank you, Anatola. Kachi, in addition to being an artist, you're also the founder and creative director for VR 360 Stories and JB Multimedia Studios, which is, an independent production company based in Lagos, Nigeria. You're also a board member for the Black Realities Grant. So could you share what inspired you to join the board?
Coming from Nigeria, where I know that there's not as much support for filmmakers who want to explore extended reality. And this board was specifically designed to support filmmakers, both, within and in the diaspora. I felt it was a great opportunity for me to contribute whatever knowledge I have, whatever skills I have, to ensure that filmmakers could get opportunities to be supported. I mean, you can only dream for so long. Without support, there's only so much that you can do, right? So a structure like the Black Realities Grant help creators who want to really explore the world of extended reality. It gives them a platform to be able to do so, and that for me was enough inspiration, enough reason to get on board.
And we thank you. So I just want to take a moment to sort of put this conversation in context. So we're talking about exploring Blackness with innovative storytelling. And when we think about, we're living through a moment where the effects of anti-Blackness and institutional racism are being highlighted and discussed throughout media around the world. It's being discussed within the workplace, within academic institutions, and for some of us at the dinner table and in Zoom rooms, like this one. Titans of industries, Fortune 500 companies have publicly declared their commitment to be anti-racist institutions in opposition to the wave of anti-Blackness that have allowed a routine and unrelenting practice of police officers and sometimes random citizens violently kill, threaten, abuse, and harass Black people without consequence in most cases. In over 2,000 cities in the United States and in over 60 countries around the world, people took to the streets in the summer of 2020 to declare Black Lives Matter. And it's estimated that 15 to 20 million people protested in the US alone, making it the largest protest in US history. Sharifa, what does it mean for you to create in a moment like this? What does it mean to explore Blackness within this political and social backdrop? How does this experience inform or affect your art making?
Yeah, when you think about this system of racial inequity and how it's fueled by power and economics, we know that the system is alive and well and it's working because we see it on a grand scale. We see evidence of the system in the way that our schooling systems are built, in the justice system, in the housing and the neighborhoods, and even down to the food that we eat. So to sort of be informed by that and also be informed at a time where we have the vocabulary to name that is really exciting, because I think for the first time, I can imagine a world where we can begin to dismantle that system. And so that's why I'm really excited about this kind of work, the work of in the immersive space, in the XR space, because the system is present even in our space here. It tends to be a very white and heteronormative space, and coming to it as a person of color, as a Black woman, as a queer woman, I often feel like an imposter in this space. And so I have to work very hard to believe that my presence is a radical act, that my work, even in the space, is a radical act, because it's paving a pathway that towards the dismantling of our system in every which way possible. So even being in this conversation with these faces, with these Black faces, is a radical thing. And so I just want to celebrate that constantly. I think in our field, we have an obligation to not only reflect the world that we're a part of, but to offer a proposal to humanity on what the future could look like. And that's what energizes me, being able to offer a little droplet or a little glimpse into what I could imagine a future could be. And I think it's important that we as Black people are imagining that future so that we can be in it. I'm a big fan of Afrofuturism, and it's a lens, if you will, to view the world. It's a practice that's incorporated into music, performance, literature, academia, you name it. And Afrofuturism for me is exciting because it allows us as Black people to imagine a future where we are free from our current state of oppression.
This is a time to take control of our narrative and how we want to be presented, how we want to represent ourselves. So that power of storytelling is really powerful to paint the future that we want to see come true.
Yeah, this revolution will require all of our different skills. We need healers, we need teachers, we need protesters, we need people who are going to burn it down, and we need architects to imagine and envision a future.
Yes.
Yeah, and to that point, I think, one of the powers of being an artist and being a creator is really that therapeutic avenue, something to sort of channel your frustration that you're seeing, channel the events that you're trying to process, and make it constructive and make it, sort of create something that you're able to build a community around, so that we can sort of figure out solutions and really come together on, what our action items are, and more importantly, really just share and communicate with each other. Because if we, through art, visuals and imagery and sound, like those go beyond any sort of op-ed or explanation that we could ever have, interpersonally. And so by just creating and expressing ourselves through this tumultuous time, I think this is what technology is for. This is the extension of, higher education and higher learning and how we're as people we can communicate.
Stephen, you were recently inspired to do something interesting, thinking about it as the Portland experiment. We'd like for you to provide some context for this experiment that you created and to set this clip up for us.
Yeah. So, when everything really started taking place at the beginning of summer, obviously I'm in Portland, and Portland is definitely on the map for the events that have been taking place. And I live about 3 or 4 blocks from like ground center, right? Where like the feds were in, people were getting tear gassed. You could just see just like cops with riot gear hanging off of vans, just driving down the street. I could see that out the window and everything. And so for me, I was really conflicted with what I was seeing going on TV and what I was seeing on, Twitter and the internet. And then also what I was seeing just outside my door. And so I was reckoning with this reality that, during the coronavirus, obviously, like I'm not trying to get sick, but also, I want to ride for my people, right? I want to be able to express myself, because this ultimately affects me. For people that don't understand Portland, there's like 6% Black people in Oregon, and they're all in Portland. So Portland is the diversity for the whole state. And so when everything started happening, I was like, okay, what is something that I can do that really can allow me to express myself and share the ideas that I'm trying to promote, and also, advocate for people on a grander scale, and leave an impact without being subjected to, the inherent racism, getting, in trouble by the police or whatever for being outside and protesting, not getting caught up in the rioting and that whole fiasco that was happening, and also not getting tear gassed. And so one thing that people don't really understand about what Portland is that during the day, like everything is fine. People are walking their dogs, everything, like it's Portland, but when it came to nightfall, that's when everything started to pick up. And so me seeing that, I was like, okay, what if I just, build an AR app, that took some stuff from Sketchfab, some like a bust of George Floyd, and really create an AR experience that allows me to go around Portland when it's safe and just do these 30-foot, statue installations at all the hotspots. And the beauty of it was, just having that discretion, because it's just with my phone and it's me having that personal journey. But then on the flip side, taking pictures and videos and then sharing that on the internet, because quite frankly, without the internet, without Twitter, without all those different things, we don't know, like, this whole movement wouldn't even be starting. And so, sort of being a true millennial and being as tech savvy as I am, I really started to play on that reality and how I could use technology for it. And so I just sort of put it together, I recorded it, and really just tried to make that a well-rounded experience.
Wow, Stephen. One of the things that I know that drives you is to find ways to introduce Black artists to the tools, of within XR. Like, why is that, important to you?
Yeah, I think it always goes back to how I got into XR. I sort of just stumbled upon it, honestly. I retired. I was a traditional football player. Got a scholarship to play football in college. And after injuries, I was forced to sort of explore other areas. And so, like many people that were in my situation, I enrolled in a YouTube University, and I got my degree in, essentially exploring the free resources that are available. And I would say that because I had the time and I didn't have the money, I was sort of restricted at the time. But with those restrictions, it forced me to be creative with what I can do. And so seeing sort of the gaps in, the opportunities for Black creators to get into the XR space, quite frankly, a lot of them don't even know that it exists. And so, but there's a lot of creators that can make great stuff, using the technology. And so, to the point of the video that you just showed, the whole concept of it was, obviously to, use AR for activism, but also, while I was creating it, that was the byproduct of a course that I created, that allowed me to teach somebody how to make an AR app without using much code. And so it's really using and showing the usability of XR, and making it culturally relevant to those creators. My hope is to sort of bridge the gaps in actually, allowing these creators to explore it. Because for the most part, like, Unity's free, YouTube is free, Unity Learn is free. Like, all you really need is the time and the drive to do it. And I know a lot of Black creators that really have a lot of time and drive. They just don't know how to channel it.
What I really appreciate about this clip, which is longer because the full clip is like 12 minutes and anyone can find it on YouTube, is that there is this instructional, process where someone at home can basically lean into allowing themselves to sort of create. And one of the things that you spell out in that instruction is, what are some of the free tools? So can we talk about the free tools and resources that are available to do what we just saw in that clip?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. So obviously, Unity is free to download and play around with. There's the SDKs for XR AR that I use are Vuforia and AR Foundation, and there's tons of YouTube videos and also the Unity Learn platform, which are all free as well. And then on Sketchfab and TurboSquid, if you go to those 3D model, marketplaces and stuff, you'll actually find other creators that do 3D stuff that you can incorporate into your app. And so for me, it's like you don't really need to know how to code. You don't need to know how to make 3D models. You really don't need to know how to, be a programmer or a designer. You just need to have the drive to just create something and then explore the tools.
Great, thank you. And I wonder, particularly for all the panelists, if you imagine that we have, Black creatives who are actually watching this panel, who may or may not have had an experience in XR to date, what would be the first 2 to 3 steps that you would recommend that they take as they take this leap into sort of taking their art into this immersive space?
Well, for me, my gateway into this space was through entering a competition called the Digital Lab Africa. And essentially that was an opportunity to submit an idea that involved, immersive technology or even music to sort of tell a story. So, there are many sort of like opportunities, like the Black Realities Grant being one of them, that are looking for folks who are from the continent or the diaspora to submit their work. But I think the even before, putting your work out there, think deeply about how you want to use technology to further the work of art that you're crafting, and to stand firmly in that your experiences, your reality, your lived truth is valid, and then go from there. So that's probably the first step, is like, you're enough, you're valid, now find a pipeline.
Kachi, what would you recommend first 2 to 3 steps if someone wanted to take that leap?
I think step number 1 is you have to genuinely want to do it. It can't just be because it's cool and everyone seems to be doing it, so yeah, let me just try my hand at it, because it comes with its own set of unique challenges. And if your intentions are not genuine, if the desire is not genuine, you could easily burn out. Especially for us back home here, where there's not a lot of support for it. So the question then becomes, what sustains you? What sustains your passion, your desire? So you have to genuinely want it. I do remember very interestingly that just before we made Daughters of Chibok, I had applied to, I can't remember the name of the grant now, but it was for support because we needed support to make a film. And interestingly, it was rejected, or we were turned down. But that didn't stop us from going ahead to, go ahead and make the film anyway. And then it then won the Venice Lion. So which is kind of interesting for us, because if we had decided not to do it, I probably wouldn't be here talking, today. So I would say have a genuine desire to want to do it, and then look for people who are already doing it, people that you may know them or may not know them, it doesn't matter, but just reach out to folks who are already in the industry. That's what I did. But I had to reach out to a few people, sent emails, and a couple of them reached out and said, hey, yeah, cool, sure. I mean, if this is what you want to do, we can share some tips with you and that kind of stuff. So that's where we sort of like started from. So reach out to people. Access to equipment might not be easy. I don't know how easy it is over there. I know that over here it's like really difficult. So it's the same thing. Reach out to someone who probably has the gear. You can learn on the job. You can say, hey, look, you know what, are you making a film? Can I join you on your project? Can I tag along? You learn by doing. So first of all, have the genuine desire, then reach out to people who are in the space that you may or may not know them. It's a really small world now with email and all of that. So you can send an email. You don't have to meet the person physically. And once you find someone who's interested in supporting you, supporting your journey, just, stay as close to them as you can, right? And keep asking questions, be on their case. show that you genuinely want to learn. So one thing I realized as someone that teaches as well is that I gravitate more towards the students who show a genuine desire to want to learn. Because, so it's the chemistry is really strong, right? You feel like you're giving, but you also feel like you're receiving something in return. And so if you want to learn XR and you find someone who's really interested in teaching you, then you have to really be serious about it. So those would be my 3 steps. I don't know. It worked for me, so I guess.
And it sounds like there's an open invitation in there too. Like maybe one reaches out to you.
Yeah, I mean,
that's great.
I'm open to sharing knowledge, whether remotely or in person. We do that a lot. With a couple of guys who work with me right now, I met them at places where I went to speak, and I said, hey, look, and someone said, oh, would you mind if I say I want to intern with you? Would you say yes? And I said, well, yeah, I would say yes. And they're working with us right now. So it's early days for this beautiful thing that we're using. And so the more people we can get involved in it, the better. And I'll still always come back home here in Nigeria, where we don't have so many people who are in the space right now. It's in our collective best interest to ensure that we get more people into this, build the ecosystem, and see it grow. So yeah, it's whoever wants to jump on board, you have an open invitation.
Anatola, any quick advice for folks? Your first 2 steps you would take?
For me, it would be connecting with other people that are in the space. There are so many Facebook groups for XR creators, people you can randomly connect with on this strange world that is the internet. For instance, Spark AR and Lens Studio Pro are great free AR apps that you can play with and then send your creation directly to Instagram, directly to Snapchat. So it's just such an easy pathway to be able to experiment in AR specifically. And those apps, most different apps in the XR have a community that they foster for people with questions. And I've been able to reach out to people and get help in making things I had no idea how to create, because people are interested in the XR world. It seems small, at least smaller than other industries. So I feel like there's this sense of community in the people that are exploring it, especially people of color exploring it. So yeah, just connecting with people makes the journey more fun and easier to find resources.
All good points. And one really great connector is the Kaleidoscope Fund. And that's kaleidoscope.fund. It's a website, it's a community of artists, all of which are there because they actually want to create something. And most of them are really excited about collaborating with you. So if you're looking for a community of individuals, I would recommend that you sign up at Kaleidoscope Fund. And that's where you can re-engage with all of us. The Black Realities Grant is hosted there. And on that site, we actually have a resource that lists a list of sources of information, whether they're podcasts, whether they're books, whether they're essays. There's also, video clips of great art that's been created that will hopefully inspire you. And that URL link is Kaleido, short for Kaleidoscope. And that's KLDO.fund/BRG-resources. That's KLDO.fund/BRG-resources. So check that out for those of you who have questions.
And so, Anatola, I'd like to go back to you. You're the first and second recipient of the Black Realities Grant. Congratulations. You entered Afro Algorithms both times. It's a very imaginary project because it examines a real concern about the advances of technology. So please tell us more about your project and why you were drawn to telling this story.
Yeah, thank you. First, it was such an amazing experience to win the Black Realities Grant. I would say the Black Realities Grant, the Kaleidoscope community were my gateway into this XR space. So it's true that it has great resources. And it not only gave me funding to start my project, but also a community to really help with just personal resources to bring it to life. And prior to winning the grant, my project, Afro Algorithms, was this big idea that I saw so clearly in my mind, but I had no idea what to do to make it happen. But after winning the grants, both times a pathway cleared out for me for how to do it. And in art that I make, I like to explore future worlds, taking social problems and imagining how they could be different. So in this specific one, it focuses on artificial intelligence and racial bias in artificial intelligence. Right now, there's not only all the inequality in our society that we spoke about earlier, but these inequalities are being they're bleeding into our technology, and specifically artificial intelligence, which has the possibility of impacting Black and Brown people a lot. So I wanted to take this issue and inflate it and bring it to the next level so that people can think about it and it can spark conversations on ethical AI and ethical machine decision making. So my project, Afro Algorithms, is a 3D animated short film, and it focuses on Arrow, who is the first AI leader of Earth. And she goes on a journey to discover who she really is beyond her programming.
Imagination is the greatest tool we have. By harnessing its power, we can create a future the likes of which the world has never seen.
Yeah.
Looks pretty dope, man.
Imagery, yes. Awesome.
Wow.
Thanks. That was like a preview into the world of Afro Algorithms. And it was the first animated example that I made with my animators. I'm not sure if you were able to hear it, but it's a piece of the inauguration speech of the AI who is accepting her role as the first AI leader. So yeah, the world is still being developed and fledged out, but I'm excited about where it's coming to now.
And can you just give us a little peek on what was the creative process that led to the creation of this world? Some of the steps that happened, because you talked about not knowing what to do. So what steps did you take?
Like you said, I had no idea how to create the project that I had in my mind. It felt like a big puzzle that I had to put together. But I realized there are so many talented people in the 3D animation space that all I had to do was connect to them and we could all work together to make it happen. The character animator I'm working with is based in Nigeria, and the environment animator is in the Philippines. So it's amazing that as me, a person sitting in my room in New York City, I can connect with and collaborate so well with animators all over the world. So I kind of played on what I knew how to do, even though I would love to learn more about developing 3D environments and be able to bring the world to life in the way that I want to see it. I played on what I could do, which was telling a story and bringing the characters to life and the world to life, and then being able to work with people to make the animated experience that you saw.
Fantastic. That's a great reminder that you do not have to carry the whole load on your own. Just connect with people and a universe is created. That's awesome. And that's the first time that's been shown, right? This is like a world premiere.
It is a world premiere. It's the first time because this was just completed, this animation. I mean, that was about maybe 47 seconds. So now we have a whole 8-minute short film to make. But yeah, from a sketch on my piece of paper to a 3D render.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So Kachi, for Daughters of Chibok. In April 2014, 276 female students were kidnapped from the secondary school in the town of Chibok in Borno State, Nigeria. 5 years later, the world's attention and the media stories had moved on, but for you it was a different story. Instead, you created a visually stunning and captivating record of the human experience, one we should not continue to ignore or neglect the impacts that continue to be felt by the victims and their families. When you arrived in Chibok, how did your impulse to pursue answers transform into this VR film?
So what? Yeah, I had always wanted to go to Chibok for about 5 years since the incident broke in 2014, but we didn't get an opportunity to go for about 5 years. So it was 2019 January. I was making another film. It was a 2D film, and we passed through Chibok. And so when we got there, I mean, obviously this was a place I always wanted to go. So, you know, we started asking the questions. So where are the girls? Where are the mothers of the girls? We want to speak to them. And so I spoke with a few mothers. I spoke with a few fathers. I spoke to 1 or 2 of the girls that had returned. And so the question was, so how do you tell the story? I found a different story there. Prior to that time, I mean, the call was bring back the girls, bring back the girls. And that's a valid cry, that's a valid call. But I also saw parents that were dying of grief. I saw mothers who were still carrying the burden of the loss and the grief, and they still had other children to take care of. And they had no psychosocial support, they had no therapy. They were living a hard life, literally. And I felt that that's a story that no one seemed to be talking about. So it was a really simple decision that, okay, this would be the story that we would tell. We'll tell the story from the perspective of the mothers who were still waiting for their daughters. But the question then became, so how do we tell the story to make as much impact as we possibly can? When people ask me, what does virtual reality mean for you? I say virtual reality enables me to take people to places that they ordinarily would not be able to get access to. That's what it means for me. And when I think about the fact that it took us 5 years to go to Chibok, to get to Chibok, and when we finally made the trip to Chibok, we had to fly from Lagos to Abuja, 1 hour, from Abuja to Maiduguri, 1 hour, and then we drove 12 hours to Yola. We passed the night, and we drove 6 hours to Chibok. That's not a trip for the faint-hearted. It's not a place that you can just say, hey, let me just pick up my bag and go there. But I wanted to take people there. I wanted people to see what I was seeing. And I didn't want it to feel edited. I didn't want it to feel detached. And so it really was a very easy decision for us to make and say, you know what, we're gonna make this film in VR. We're gonna put people in this place, Chibok. We're gonna put them in the huts with these women. And that really was how it started. And it's a decision that, you know, I don't regret, because what it did for a lot of people who saw it was, wow, I didn't know it was this bad. I didn't know this place really existed. I didn't know that it was like this, because suddenly with VR, suddenly you convert detached viewers into sort of like active participants. It's almost like they're there. It's happening right in front of them. And you know, right now I'm looking at my screen on the laptop. I can easily look away, but you can't do that when you wear the headset. Everywhere you look, there's something to see. You have to physically take it off, right? So long as the headset is on your head, everywhere you look, you can't look away from the grief. You can't look away from from the pain. You can't look away from what's happening in front of you. And we wanted to do that. We wanted to really put people in this space because I felt it was an important story to tell. One of the statements that haunted me and really made us decide to make this film was when one of the mothers said to me, in the beginning, it seemed like the whole world cared, but now everyone has moved on and we're still here. I mean, how do you walk away from that, and say, okay, don't worry, I'll be back. We decided to stay and make the film. And it was a promise to her. And I said, look, I promise you, not everyone has moved on. And we will do what we can with this film to amplify your voice. That's really why I make films. I mean, if we cannot use it to do some good, if we can't use it to amplify the voices of people who ordinarily would not be heard, I don't know why we're doing it. So yeah. I hope that answers my question.
Thank you. We actually have that powerful moment queued up in a clip.
Rivka, to my daughter. For 5 years, I have wept and waited, praying for you to return. In the beginning, it seemed like everyone cared. But now, the world has moved on, and we are still here waiting. Your sister still washes your clothes and keeps them. All your things are intact. Nothing is missing. We do this because we want to feel close to you, because we love you, because we miss you. Please, my daughter, don't be worried about how I will accept you when you return. Because when I see you, I will hold you so tight, and we will laugh together and cry together. I will not stop praying for you, Rifokatu. I will never stop. And I know that one day my prayers will be answered.
To your point, what this film really illustrates is the power of VR. When I think about not just being in Chibok with the individuals that you're engaging, I'm also thinking about that very last moment when all the names are surrounding you, and you feel you begin to have a insight into the weight of the continued suffering that mothers are having as their daughters are still missing. So to that, I just applaud you for the great, impactful storytelling in that film. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
One of the things that excites me about this whole panel of artists that we're speaking with today is this sort of artistic richness and the span of storytelling that's represented by each of you. Sharifa, you are currently developing a fully immersive virtual reality experience entitled Atomu. It is designed to take folks into a magical place where they witness and experience transformation while being guided by the comforting, presence of their ancestors. When asked, how do you describe your artistry? You described yourself as a hustler with Afropolitan sensibilities. What does that mean, actually? And what does that mean?
Well, I think we're in a time where we are embracing what it means to be a complex and multifaceted artist. And so I identify as an Afropolitan and Afrofuturist, as a hustler. And I recently learned in a class that I teach on Afrofuturism and the avant-garde that the term bricolage, to take what from inspiration from the world around you, sometimes using discarded things and to pour new life into those things, is what we do in the process of making Afrofuturist art. And so it made me take on a label that maybe in the past I might have been, less than thrilled to take on, but I now embrace that term of being a bricoleur, of being a hustler, of being a multi-hyphenate. I have a background in theater making and directing for the stage. And I think that sensibility of guiding an audience to pay particular attention to a portion of the stage or a moment between two characters has really served me well as I approach this new and exciting immersive space. Because as we've witnessed in VR and in Kachi's presentation, we always try to guide the viewer to see and experience what we want them to experience. And so using immersive technology on the one side, I also wholeheartedly embrace that I am a daughter of Kenya, and my lineage can be traced back to East Africa. And so we have a tradition of how our stories are told and passed down. It's essentially in every community there are storytellers, and it is up to each storyteller to to pass down a story, but also use what is available to them to put their own unique spin on that story and then pass it down to the next generation. And so being a product of my time, I get to hold my traditional culture and values and this love of storytelling and get to put my particular spin or take on it. And that take is involving or inviting technology into the space. So the project that I've been working on, Atomu, for the past 4 years now, is a piece that is steeped in ancient Kikuyu mythology. And it centers this tree, a giant, beautiful fig tree called the Mugamo tree. And this tree has so much significance in historical Kenya and in present day Kenya. I'll tell you one thing about the Mugamo tree. We believe that when the Mugamo tree falls, it's time for our leaders to change and shift. So the chief would traditionally leave their power, and a new chief would be sort of invited to rule. And that's that's really potent and prominent, so much so that today, if a Mugamo tree were to fall in, say, Nairobi, the paper, it would be on the front, the front page of the paper, and a reporter would probably speculate that it's time for the president to leave office. And that's how how rich and closely held our traditional values are, even in a contemporary context. So the piece is about one other story that involves the Mugamo tree. We follow a young boy by the name of Wakiki, who has been beaten by his father because he wants to perform the female roles in his community. He wants to, to stay indoors and not herd cattle and sheep as his father has instructed him. So late one night, Wakiki goes to the Mugamo tree and asks the Mugamo tree to transform him, to change Wakiki so that Wakiki can be in the most honest version of himself or themselves. And so in the piece Atomu, you as the user, the person experiencing the piece, are an ancestor, and you are helping Wakiki along this journey. Legend has it that if you walk around the Mugamo tree 7 times, it will allow you to change your gender. And so we get to experience that in real time in a fully immersive context where you as an ancestor can enact change in the environment. I think that introducing this mythology in present day Kenya is, really, really interesting for many reasons, namely that, there are currently 17 laws that prohibit LGBT or trans identity in any way, shape, or form. And so this piece in some way argues that our myths, our mythologies are older than these laws. Our myths and mythologies are older than colonialism. And what happens when we allow people to truly be themselves and to go on this journey, not necessarily of anatomical change, of becoming the most honest version of oneself.
Great. And in your process, you created a prototype that sort of began the foundation of this work. And what we're going to do is we're going to show that prototype, and then we'll talk about that process.
Mugomo is the name of a special sacred tree known to the Kikuyu community and many others in Kenya. Its name was inherited from the ancestors, and the ancestors inherited it from their ancestors. The holiness of this tree has survived the ages. Some believe that going around this tree 7 times would automatically change one's sex. But no one has experienced this transformation until today. The air will not deny you. Like a top, spin you on the navel of the storm, or the hoe that roots the forest plows a path for squirrels. Be ageless as a dark peak, but only that rain's fingers, not the feet of men, may wash you over. Long wear the sun's shadow, run naked to the night.
That was beautiful, Sharifa. And if you could give us a 30-second understanding of where that was in the process and what happened next.
So this was our prototype that we made with a team based in London and France. And we used it to allow ourselves to fundraise for more money to complete the project. So we're now in the post-production part of the journey.
Great, fantastic. Stephen, we are really excited to talk to you because when we talk about the ways in which you come to this work, you took a daunting subject of systemic oppression and turned it into an adventure story in the form of a comic book that comes to life with AR components in forms of characters and text, and in some parts, fully animated sequences, all while pursuing the development of a low-cost headset prototype that could be paired with the comic book series to encourage reading and improve literacy while leaning into the inventive and creative exhilaration of XR. That's a lot. That's a lot. And I think that one of the things we would benefit from is just seeing the piece, and then we're going to talk to you about it. Stephen, that was amazing. It was very vibrant. It came alive. And I got to tell you, I'm really excited about this comic book and its series, sort of actually being in the hands of young people and adults so they can really engage with the various components that are there. One of the things that I want to make sure that is not overlooked is the DIY aspect of what you're doing, because you are the writer, you are the director, you are the animator, you are the coder, you are the illustrator, you are the publisher, you are the distributor, and overall Black boy brilliance. Like, you're doing it all. And I just want to know, like, where did this come from? I mean, you talked about how you went to YouTube and you began to sort of take on some videos. And I just want to take people sort of through that arc of how they can possibly dive in such an immersive way towards their creation and where that inspiration comes from.
Yeah, I think to that point, I think with this project, Island Fever, and really the books and everything that I'm making, I think the only thing that I don't make is the paper and the ink and the software, you know. But for me, I think it's always, as a creator, I've always been compelled to sort of push the envelope on, you know, what Black creativity looks like. And quite often we get sort of put in these boxes being athletes and being entertainers. But when you see sort of the tech side and when you see sort of the behind the scenes stuff, you know, we are underrepresented in every industry, you know, animation, video games, all, you know, to name a few. And so for me, it's, you know, it's ultimately a testament to like the potential of Blackness and what we can do as a people, you know, to channel our energy in, you know, diverse ways. And so for me, you know, with Island Fever, you know, this ultimately started as just a portfolio piece to try to get a job. And, you know, I transitioned from retiring from playing football into sort of the creative areas. And this was supposed to be a way of me sort of sharing what I can do and ultimately, you know, make a living off of it. It just so happened that, you know, for us, we really created an experience where I was able to share the Black experience in all its, you know, all its nuances, particularly with police brutality, with, you know, racial injustice, dealing with systemic racism, and also just dealing with just the identity of being Black. And so, you know, with that, I wanted to make it immersive. I wanted to make it, you know, add, you know, increase areas of literacy by using technology to the point where, you know, at the end of the day, my legacy, I wanted it to be where I create books that you're able to read like a regular book, watch like a, you know, a YouTube video, listen like an audiobook, and possibly be immersed in sort of a gamification, a game experience. And I think that, you know, with tools like Unity that, you know, are game engines where you're able to build AR experiences with, I think that those, you know, the tools just allow me to do that and push the envelope of, you know, anything that I could get my hands on.
Bravo. There's never enough time to have these conversations. So we have to wrap this up. Let people know where they can find you online, Stephen.
Yes. So it's Stuck on an Eyeland. So it's STUCKONAN, and then it's Eyeland, but it's with the EYE. So EYELAND, and then obviously Iltopia, ILTOPIA, on all the social nets.
I want to thank each and every one of the panelists today. I cannot overstate how grateful I am that you joined us, how well you represented the wide spectrum of art making that's happening with Black creatives. Thank you very much, Anatola. Thank you very much, Kachi. Thank you, Sharifa. Thank you, Stephen and SB. You are always my ride or die. So with all of that, have a great day, you all. And thank you all for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this conversation.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.